evening, good evening. How we doing tonight, everybody?
Hello, hello.
Hey, it is marital motivation with the Mackeys.
I missed it. I'm sorry.
You dropped the ball. You
I
want to do it
did. I
again?
dropped it all the way because you're sitting where I can't see you.
Okay.
So I kind of missed my cue on that.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
My
You try it
bad.
again?
We can try it again.
Okay, let's do it.
Hey, everybody.
Hi.
How we doing tonight?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm wonderful, baby.
Great.
Hey, welcome to Marital Motivations with the Mackeys. How is everybody tonight? We did it. We did it. So, good evening, everybody. I feel like it has been a minute since we have been out there with everybody.
Well, at least just the two of us. We've been having guests, and that has been so amazing just
Yes.
to be able to have conversations with other people. But it's also good to always be able to come back where we started, and that's just the two of us.
That's just the two of us. That's gonna bother you, me being on
It
this
is,
side tonight.
it is,
I
but
already
I'll
see.
work with it.
You
I'll
gonna
work with it. I'm gonna work with you.
Okay, for the next go, I'll switch back to my
It's all
normal
good.
spot on the next go round. The problem is I dropped her laptops, so I'll fess up. So it's like doing this number right here. So we had to switch to a different camera. So we had a little technical issue, but that just means I got to buy another laptop.
Absolutely, but I still think that all ties into our topic for tonight, which is adjusting to changes. See,
Woo!
this is a change, me being on this side.
It is a change.
It's a change.
It's a change. So take this moment, everybody. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all your social media platforms. Share this. We know that it's going to bless you. We are just going to have fun like we always do. We're just going to talk, be ourselves, share some godly wisdom, and we're going to talk about change. I titled this one as You Ain't You. I like it.
I like
You
it.
ain't you.
You
So,
ain't you.
you know how we get. You change. You're not the same person I married. You're not the same person that I dated. You've just changed so much. But change is a part of life.
Absolutely. I think
So-
the only thing consistent is change.
Absolutely. Everything is all about change in a relationship. And so that's what we want to start off with today. So the question we're going to keep them braids over there.
Oh, sorry. I got you.
I guess we could start with let's start with just a basic question for everybody out there is what is acceptable change? What is it? What's acceptable? Ooh.
Say that one more time. I like this acceptable.
What is
Ooh.
acceptable? What is an acceptable change request in your relationship or marriage?
Okay, so we're going straight to the marriage. Okay.
We can go wherever because you
Well,
always say that I jumped the gun.
Well, no,
So-
because where my thought starts with this is that in any relationship,
Okay.
people expect change, but then are we willing to give changes? Are we willing to change for other people? So even in general, we
I'm
want,
listening.
I'll say even, okay, please share. I love that. But I think even just with friendships, we want to mold these people into our world. Even in friendships and, different relationships, we want them to change and so we can mold them into our world.
Mhm.
But how often are we willing to change to fit into somebody else's world? And what's acceptable? What's good change and what's not good change? So,
what's unrealistic and what's borderline abusive or controlling, so
Okay.
I would love for some people to put some comments in the comments,
Oh,
whether you're
yeah.
on YouTube, whether you're watching us on Facebook,
Yeah.
because I see so many, I've heard people say it just in conversation and just people talking. It's like, well, you got to accept me for who I am, the way that I am. And, I don't think it's right for you to ask me to change anything about me. And I get that. We have to be our authentic self.
Mhm.
But in any relationship, when you care about somebody,
Mhm.
there's going to be change because you're going to change your behavior to make that person happy.
I agree. I just think as long as it doesn't get to the point that you're changing your authentic self, you can't
Mhm.
change who you are. And I guess that ties more into dealing with marriage once we get into diving deeper into that
Mhm.
part of it. But you still, um, I may like to drive to work the same route every day. You know,
Okay.
that may be my thing. This is the way I go. This is the route that I take. You know, but am I willing to change up if someone asks me to come pick them up? Am I willing to detour and go out of my
Hmm.
way? You know, that may be something simple, you know, but are we willing to make little changes and adjustments? Like I said, I think something like that should be simple, easy. You know, that's a, you
Hmm.
know, you, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna throw this out there because this is a common one that everybody talks about all the
Okay,
time when it
let's
comes to
go
dating.
there. Let's
You
go.
know, okay, so you got the guy, he's dating this girl. She girls' night, they go out, they have fun all the time.
Okay.
And then he says, I really don't like them, or I don't like you hanging out with them,
Oh, don't like
or
her
that
friends.
particular person. I
Oh.
don't think you should go out with them.
So now he wants it just to be the two of them and
Hmm.
just kick, she wants her to kick her friends out and no longer have those relationships. Is that an acceptable change?
I don't know. It's funny because you went to him kicking the girls to the curb, and that is not at all what I said. But that's the difference between men and
Well,
women
is that
sometimes.
not though the control issue of where
Is it a
that's
control
going
issue,
though?
or is it that he sees bad behaviors or behaviors that bring these people bring out the worst qualities in her?
Okay, because birds of a feather typically flock
And
together.
maybe
I
he
get
sees
that.
that and he's just like, hey, I think that, maybe that relationship may not be the best for you because you're trying to move here and that person is pulling you down.
Or what if it is like I said, a control issue?
Yeah, it definitely can be a control
Where
issue.
no, this is gonna be me and you. I don't want anybody else all up in our business and our
Hmm.
relationship, and it's more control. How do you
Hmm.
know the difference?
That's a good question. All right, hold on. I got some comments if you
Hey, hey,
if you
family! I see you all joining.
hmm.
We're asking you all to join in the chat. If you all will add some comments for us, what are some acceptable changes, some things that are not? And I
And
see one question came up says, "What if you need to change who you are for the betterment
and that was
of the
something we were definitely
relationship?"
gonna get into right there.
We're
That's a
going now.
good question. So I just need you to hold on for a minute. Hold on for a minute, sir, because we're gonna get to that one. So we just wanted to break the ice with those questions.
What change is acceptable and what change is not?
And I think that especially if you're dating and you're just starting out, anything that comes across as controlling, that's a red flag.
Run.
Yeah, you got to run. I think that, like you said, honey, if as long as you're not changing your authentic self and this person is not trying to control you, and if it's a little change here and there, it may be something that they just would like for you to do. Or if you speak to them a certain way and they're asking you, hey, can you not do this because it makes me feel this way? As a human being and having empathy, that should provoke you to even just to consider and have a conversation with yourself about the change. But no one can say this is wrong and that is wrong because it always depends on the scenario. Okay. So where you want to go from here, Boo? Because I'm putting
Okay.
it back in your court
You putting it back in my court. I'm about to
hmm
bounce it back to you
as
because I'm
usual.
all right. Because my because I want you to change your attitude with that say no. Change how you respond to that.
Change how
No,
I respond
no,
to
but
you. I'm so
I agree.
sorry.
But no, I agree with that. I do believe that some change is good.
Hmm.
Um, Depending on the ask and the motive behind the ask
Hmm.
as well.
Yeah,
But like I said, but not to change. I guess we just need to dive into that. Some
hmm,
changes that's like run. Don't
yeah,
don't change some things, but run.
absolutely. Like you said, when things lead towards controlling, I think that's where and manipulation. That's you got to be aware, you know, of the red flags. You got to be aware of the stuff that's like, uh-oh, that don't feel right, and trust your
Mhm.
gut, because there are people that are definitely going to try to manipulate you into what they want to
Mhm.
get out of the relationship. And almost like you said before, we want change, but are we willing to change for somebody else? If
Mhm.
it's all one sided, that's another red flag. But I just feel like I wanted to talk about this because I feel like so many people, just like everybody, no one really is just like, ooh, I love change. But I hear it so many times where I talk to couples and talk to people where they're just like, well, they've changed over the years and they're not the same person that I married. And I don't understand how we have that expectation in a relationship because everything does change.
Yeah, and and I'll say this, David, you were 23 when
Yeah.
we got
I was a
married.
young buck,
I,
23.
I hope you changed. I would not want to be married to a person with a 23-year-old mentality at
Hmm.
the age where we are now. So that change was excellent change. It was
Hmm.
really good change, and we grew together.
Yes,
We've
we did.
grown up together. We've learned together. We've changed together.
Hmm.
And I think that has been the beautiful part of our relationship is that we didn't change growing apart, but the change brought us closer together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm trying not to get to the comment that was made first, but I really just want to go ahead and
Go
get
ahead
to
and
that
dive in. Somebody
because
also said you have to compromise with each other.
you definitely have to
Excellent
compromise
point.
with each other.
Excellent.
But yes, you have to change to better yourself. We can't change anybody. The only person we can change is ourselves.
Mhm.
So to answer that question, absolutely, you have to do what is always best for you and your growth. But the caveat, the asterisk on that is to seek God and ask God, how do I make the change that I need to make to grow to become a better person? Because if you're in a relationship, if you're in a actually scratch relationship, because this is a marriage podcast, but if you're in a marriage, um, every decision you make is about you and your spouse because you are no longer separate, you become one. So as you are bettering yourself, God will give you, God will purpose in your heart and God will show you how to better yourself and it will also better your spouse. And that's the one thing that I love about us is just like you said, we didn't grow apart. We've grown together and I really am thankful to that. One thing I just had this kind of analogy in my head is like it's like two trees. If you plant two trees together, side by side, they're going to grow together. They're going to intertwine. They're going to reach up to the same place because they want to get the same sun. But one doesn't kill out the other. But if you
Right.
plant a tree next to a brick wall, either the tree is going to die or the wall is going to crumble. And so in a relationship, are you both trees or is one of you the tree and one of you the wall? You
That's
know,
interesting.
So we've got to be pliable. We've got to be in a place where we can compromise, like the other comment said, we've got to be able to compromise in our relationships, and change is necessary.
One thing when you were just talking that crossed my mind though was even when I felt that you had become complacent
Hmm.
with where you were with your employment.
I need one.
I mean, I just thought of it.
Hmm.
I felt like you had become so complacent, and as your wife, I saw such potential in you
Hmm.
and how much further you could go and how much you could benefit from going to the next level, and you didn't want to. And so it was one of those things, instead of me being a nagging wife, instead of just completely pushing it in your face day after day after day after day, instead I said it to you.
Hmm.
And then after that, I stepped back and I prayed. And what the Lord showed me to do with that was to build your confidence in who you were, to remind you of all of the beautiful qualities that you carried and how, like I said, not to just pump your head up, but to really um, encourage you through words of inspiration
Hmm.
so that you could understand that you did not have to box yourself or even box God in with what he was calling you to do, even to go to the next stage. And it took some time,
Hmm.
so it took a lot of patience on my end, but the change came.
Okay.
The change came and it was better. It was much better for the whole family overall.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Question. You ready?
Before you ask that, great topic, fam. Remember, marriage is a together thing. You both have feelings and you have to be considerate. Absolutely. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for you. Come on.
Okay. What were the two biggest changes you had to make when we got married?
Okay, one is easy.
Okay.
I am the youngest, so I was the baby in the household, and learning to how to have to share everything. Um, Even though I'm a giver, I want to give what I want to give, not have to give. I didn't want to give everything that was mine. Some things I wanted mine,
And
and
that's
that's that
gum. She will
youngest.
not share
Oh
her
no, I
gum for
still wouldn't.
nothing. I don't like gum. It's all good. But this woman right here
I
will
love
not share her
gum.
gum.
Okay, I mean, I will if your first time asking me, I will share my gum. But don't keep coming back to me over and over and over asking for my gum because um, after a while, then you will be chewing gum, and then I will have to go to the store to get some more when all you had to do was go get gum for yourself if you knew you wanted gum. That's how I look at that. Okay, but that's a whole nother topic right there.
So sharing was
So
hard.
sharing was challenging for me,
Okay.
especially if we would go out to eat and come back and I had leftovers and my mouth would be all tuned up that I'm gonna go home and eat my leftovers and I would come and see the container in the trash can.
Yeah, because I'm eating everything.
So I would definitely
Sorry.
have to say that was one of the biggest changes
Hmm.
and challenges for me that I had to adjust to getting married. What was something else? Oh goodness. Let me think about that. I'm gonna bounce the same question to you.
I
Let
don't
me
want the
think
same
about.
question.
No, I want to know what were your two. How did you put that? What were your two biggest changes that you had to make when we got there?
The first one absolutely is easy, like you. Being accountable and checking in.
Okay.
That was a real challenge for me. Um,
Hmm.
and we were having this conversation. We had a vision board party um, 2 weekends ago, 1 weekend ago. Anyway, we had a vision board party. That was one of the conversations that came up in conversation. And it was because of me growing up in a military house and being on my own so young. I've always just been a get in my car and go. If I want to do something, I just go do it. Who am I checking in with? I was single for a while, so my whole thing of checking in, and it wasn't even a fact of I didn't want to check in. I just legitimately would not even think about it. And so that was a challenge just to make sure I was accountable to you, and so you knew where I was and I understood that it was about safety and knowing where I am and things like that, and not keeping tabs on me, you
Mhm.
know. But that was a real challenge for me. And I think the other challenge for me, the biggest change when we first got married was just communication.
Mhm.
That was hard um, because, again, my upbringing, just do what I say, don't ask questions. So there was not a lot of communication back and forth. So having to talk about stuff, I was just like, why are we even talking? It's like I can answer this in three sentences, 3 words. We done. Let's move on to the next thing, or just be in silence. You know what I'm saying? But just to interact was a challenge because I was an introvert, and you are a extrovert, so that was definitely a challenge for me.
I think my second one, now that I've been thinking about it, when we first got married,
Hmm.
was the fact that I was so close to my family, specifically my sister.
I'm sorry. Keita said she don't share her
I know
cinnamon
that
rolls.
cinnamon roll. I saw her comment. She cannot share the middle of her cinnamon roll with
I
with
feel,
her husband. That is hilarious. Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry,
saw
man.
that. He understands though.
Mm-mm.
But because I was so close to my sister,
Mhm.
I think that learning to keep what was going on in our marriage
Mm.
between us
Okay.
and not um, including my family, and everybody else and what was going on with us. I had to learn in that what works for our marriage works for our marriage. We can't use anybody else's marriage as a blueprint. We had to discover each other,
Hmm.
learn each other, and figure it out for ourselves, as opposed to me going, talking to my sister with giving, all of that stuff. So
Okay.
that would probably be my other thing.
Okay.
Those would be
Yeah,
my two
someone
biggest
said
changes.
that their flaws, accepting flaws for themselves, that was a hard thing for them.
Mm.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
You want to ask me something else before I go? Because I'll just keep rolling.
keep on rolling. I'm with you.
Okay. Well, one of the things I think that is so detrimental to marriages is just with the change is we don't want our spouse to change sometimes, but yet when our spouse does change for the better, we hold them to the standard of when they were doing the thing that we didn't like, the flaw, like the comment said. So, hey, you've done this wrong for so long. I can't stand when you do this, or this hurts me, and this is something that's been bothering me. And your spouse takes the time to grow and try to change and makes efforts, and then that comes up again later on in an argument or in a discussion or something else, and you're like, well, what you used to do, but I've changed. So why are you holding me to this standard? And that's so bad on your relationship.
Yeah.
If we all grow, let us grow. If you're going to forgive, forgive. People say, well, I ain't forgetting. Well, the word says God throws it in the sea of forgetfulness. So if they've changed, they've repented, repent means to turn from that thing. So they've apologized, they've turned from it, they no longer do that. Why are we still bringing it up?
But I wonder sometimes as spouses, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's like, when you're living in a house, and that's the only example I can think of off the top of my head, and you're seeing each other day in, day out, day in, day out, the changes can occur so slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And, that you look up and the change has taken place. But the other person, I think, sometimes doesn't notice it until it's brought to their attention. I mean, it's like dust. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Dust in your house. You walk in and out of your house all day, every day, and the next thing you know, you look up at the ceiling fan and you're like, how did all that dust get up there? You don't even see it accumulate. You don't see the change taking
Mm-hmm.
place. But all of a sudden is there. So I wonder sometimes, is it not so much that as a spouse you're intentionally holding it over their head, but maybe it maybe pricked something
Mm-hmm.
in the other person, and so that's the way they just know how to they've learned to deal with it. And even though the other person has changed, they don't sometimes see it.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. And I would just suggest that we always go to God, because that's one of my prayers is that, okay, Lord, show me the growth, show me the change, show me how I need to deal with Leslie, show me that, and show me where she's grown, where she's not grown, so, and how to handle the situation, because if I handle it in Mackie, I might be too gruff. I might be too sharp with the tongue. If I handle it in Mackie, I might hold it over your head, something that you don't even do anymore, you know. And I really want to transition to talking about the serious stuff and
Okay.
talking about how we've had to change the dynamic in our relationship, because of some growth. And it was good growth, but it was and has been challenging, So how you want to segue into that?
So I'll give a little history
Okay.
first, for those of you who's watching this for the first time or who haven't heard my story. My mother died when I was 13 years old, and with my mother's death, I never was given the opportunity or taught that it was important for me to grieve. So with that, from the age of 13, I began to deal with depression. Didn't know it was depression. It just became a part of my life. But David met me when I was still in the midst of all of this depression. Um, it wasn't until, see, my father died in 2021. He had come to stay with us, and we were taking care of him until he died. And I knew that with my dad approaching death, I was like, I didn't grieve my mom properly, but I know I need to grieve my father's death properly. So I began to talk to David immediately, saying, no, I need counseling. I've got to deal with this grief the right way. I didn't know what the right way was or what that was going to look like, but I knew I needed to deal with the grief the right way. So with that, God opened the door with this amazing counselor. You all have heard me talk about Dr. Wilma Davis. Hey! She is absolutely amazing, but God opened the door so that I was able to start counseling with her. And with that, um, I had to go all the way back to 13-year-old Leslie to deal with the grief of my mother, even though I thought I would be dealing with just the grief of my father. And going back and uprooting all of the hurt, the disappointment, all of that stuff that came with it was necessary because my tree had deep roots. It just was the wrong tree. It was a tree that didn't need to be planted, dealing with the grief of my mom's death. So, with that, since I have been in counseling since then, I'm still in counseling, but it has been such a beautiful, beautiful change and transition in me. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But it also changes the way that and I guess that's really the biggest thing for us, because I depended on David so much. I made David my crutch. So in everything that I did, and I didn't realize this during the time, and I don't even think you realized it as much, but I used David as my crutch. He was the one helping me get through life, get through day-to-day things. He was the one that I always leaned on for that support. And now I've learned to stand up on my own 2 feet. I've learned that I don't need to lean on David for everything. And I think that became, I won't call it an issue because it wasn't an issue.
It's a change.
It was a change that we had to learn how to deal with, because there's still times now, that David is there waiting to catch me. And it's like, no, I got this, buddy. Well, I'm good. I'm good. I'm standing. Even if I trip and fall, I'm good. Not that I don't need my husband, but I just don't need him in the same capacity because of the healing, because of the growth, which has brought about the change.
And so, from my end, it was, prior to her going through this, I always, for years, felt like I had to be on eggshells. Always try to make sure I didn't do anything that would send her off into the depression, or how to handle her and the kids while she was in it. So we've got 20 plus years of this in the dynamic, 20 plus years of, like I said, I knew I was your crutch. I knew I had so much attention, but now that attention is, so she changed the mindset. Not, when we 24/7 days we got used to, because she's always to herself and she's free and she doesn't need to be right here all the time. And some of us know we may be in the vision all the time. Change. But no, I'm happy that she changed. I'm happy that she's grown.
Just well, so can you still hear us? Somebody else, can you still hear us? You all give us 2 and 2 when we can hear you talking, but we can't hear what you're saying. Okay. Well, okay. In the stream.